The manila envelope landed on my hospital tray with a soft thud, right next to the untouched Jell-O cup. I stared at it, confused, my brain still foggy from pain medication. My husband Martin stood at the foot of my bed, his expression carefully neutral. "What's this?" I asked, my voice hoarse from disuse. "Divorce papers," he said flatly. "I think it's best we move on." I blinked, certain I'd misheard. I was still in a hospital gown, stitches running down my left arm, my leg elevated in a brace. 3 weeks post-accident, and I could barely walk to the bathroom unassisted. "You're joking," I whispered. "I'm not." He shifted his weight. "This hasn't been working for a while. The accident just made it clear." Behind him, his mother Beverly stood with her arms crossed, eyeing me like I was a problem finally being solved. Her lips pressed into a thin line of satisfaction. I survived a car crash that could have killed me. But this was the real wreckage. My name is Evelyn Hart. And 3 months before that day, I was in love and building something no one saw coming. 3 weeks earlier I'd been driving home from a pitch meeting. The kind of meeting that could change everything. My co-founder Lucia and I had just presented our AI-powered customer service platform to a major venture capital firm. They'd been impressed, asking all the right questions. I was buzzing with quiet hope, replaying the meeting in my head as I drove through the intersection. The light was green. I was careful, always careful. Then came the screech of tires, the explosion of glass and darkness. I woke up in the hospital 2 days later. Martin was there, but he looked annoyed rather than relieved. "You scared everyone," he said, not meeting my eyes. Callie had to reschedule all my meetings. Kelly, his assistant, the woman who seemed to be handling everything while I lay broken in a hospital bed. The recovery was brutal. Physical therapy, pain that made me sob. And through it all, Martin visited less and less. "Work is crazy," he'd say. "Callie's helping me manage the load." Something was off. I knew it in my bones, but I was too tired to name it. The truth came accidentally. A nurse walked in while changing my four and said casually, "Your husband and his girlfriend are in the cafeteria if you need them." Froze. "I'm sorry, what?" She realized her mistake immediately, her face going pale. "Oh God," I thought, "I'm so sorry." "Say it again," I demanded, my heart pounding. "What did you say?" "I shouldn't have. Please." She swallowed hard. "The blonde woman who comes with him." The staff all thought. "We assumed you knew they were together." "I'm so sorry." After she left, I lay there staring at the ceiling, everything suddenly clicking into place. The late nights, distance, the way Callie had slowly inserted herself into every corner of Martin's life while I was building my company. I'd been so focused on my startup that I'd missed the affair happening right in front of me. Or maybe I'd seen it and chosen not to believe it. Either way, the truth was here now, unavoidable as the pain in my bones. When Martin returned from the cafeteria, I confronted him. He didn't even try to deny it. "It just happened," he said with a shrug. "While you were recovering. Callie was there and you weren't. She gets me in ways you never did. I was in a coma." "I know. And I felt terrible. But I can't help how I feel." He actually looked relieved to finally say it. "Callie brings out the best in me. She's ambitious. She wants things." Beverly stepped forward then, her voice dripping with false sympathy. "Sweetheart, you have to understand. Martin needs a partner who can keep up with him. You were always so focused on your little computer hobby. Callie wants more out of life." My little computer hobby. The company I'd spent 3 years building while Martin dismissed every milestone as cute but unimportant. "You'll regret this," I said quietly. Martin actually laughed. "I really won't." But I saw something flicker in his eyes. Not regret. Calculation. He thought I had nothing. That I was nothing without him. He had no idea. I signed the divorce papers without a fight. Martin looked almost disappointed by how easy it was. He'd probably expected tears, begging, a dramatic scene. Instead, I picked up the pen with my bruised hand and signed my name clearly on every page. "You can keep the house," I said. "I don't want anything from you." His eyes lit up. He hadn't expected that either. The house was worth close to $1 million in our market. "Really? Really? Considerate payment for 7 years of my time you wasted." I packed what little I had at the hospital. Some clothes, my phone, and most importantly my laptop. Everything that actually mattered fit in a single bag. Martin watched me limp toward the door with my cane, and I saw Beverly whisper something to him. They both smiled. They thought they'd won. That I was limping away defeated, with nothing. I didn't tell them where I was going. Didn't give them a forwarding address. I simply disappeared from their lives, exactly as they'd disappeared from mine when I needed them most. The difference was I had somewhere to go. They just didn't know it yet. The short-term rental was modest but perfect. 1 bedroom, lots of natural light, and most importantly, quiet. I needed space to think, to heal, to plan. Lucia arrived within an hour of my call. Her arms full of groceries and her face full of concern. "Are you okay?" She hugged me carefully, mindful of my still healing injuries. "I will be," I replied. "What's the status?" She broke into a smile then, the kind that said everything had changed while I was trapped in that hospital room. "We just closed the Series B funding round," she whispered, as if saying it too loud might make it disappear. "Evelyn, we're now valued at $40 million. I let that sink in. 40 million. The company Martin had dismissed as my hobby. The startup he'd never asked about, never shown interest in, never taken seriously. While he was serving me divorce papers, I'd become a multimillionaire. I opened my laptop, my fingers finding their familiar place on the keyboard. They'd thought they were playing checkers. I've been playing chess all along. The first photos appeared on social media 2 days later. Martin and Callie on a beach somewhere tropical, her hand on his chest, both of them grinning like teenagers. The caption made my stomach turn. "Some women wait their whole lives for what others walk away from." A mutual friend sent me screenshots, probably expecting me to break down. Instead, I studied them carefully. The expensive resort, the designer swimsuit, the watch on Martin's wrist I'd never seen before. He was spending money, celebrating his freedom, showing off his upgrade. I saved each photo methodically, adding them to a private folder on my computer. Not out of pain or jealousy but documentation. Evidence of choices that would soon have consequences. Lucia found me that evening, still scrolling through the photos. "Don't torture yourself," she said gently. "I'm not," I replied, closing my laptop. "I'm just making sure I remember exactly who showed their true colors when I was at my lowest." She squeezed my shoulder. "What are you planning?" "Nothing illegal. Nothing unethical." Smiled. "Just making sure they understand exactly what they threw away." 2 weeks later, I walked into Martin's office building. My limp was barely noticeable now, hidden by expensive heels and a perfectly tailored suit. I'd had my hair cut short, professional, powerful. I looked nothing like the broken woman who'd signed those divorce papers. The receptionist didn't recognize me. "Do you have an appointment?" "I'm here to see the legal counsel. Tell them Evelyn Hart is here with time-sensitive documentation." Martin's company lawyer arrived within 5 minutes, confusion written across his face. We'd met at a Christmas party once. He'd called my startup adorable. I handed him a folder. "This is a courtesy notification. The vendor management software your company has used for 3 years was acquired last week by my company, TechFlow Solutions. Terms of service are changing. I wanted to deliver the news personally." He opened the folder, his face going pale as he read. Martin's company relied heavily on that software. Switching vendors would cost them months and hundreds of thousands of dollars. "We'll need time to. You have 60 days. The terms are non-negotiable." Smiled. "Have a nice day." I left before Martin could be notified I was there. But I knew he'd hear about it soon enough. I ran into Beverly at the grocery store 3 days later. She spotted me in the produce section and made a beeline toward me, her face arranged in an expression of false sympathy. "Evelyn. Oh honey, I hope you're finding peace after everything." Her tone was so patronizing I wanted to laugh. Instead I simply nodded. "I am, thank you. I know it must be hard seeing Martin so happy. But you'll find someone eventually. Someone more suited to your lifestyle." I said nothing, just smiled and pushed my card away. But that evening, I made a single phone call to a contact at the charity organization where Beverly sat on the board. She'd been bragging for months about landing exclusive sponsorship for their annual gala. That sponsorship quietly vanished the next day. The charity found a better offer, through a shell company I controlled. Beverly's name was removed from all promotional materials. I didn't need to see her reaction. I could imagine it perfectly. The email came from an unexpected source. Harold Brennan, one of Martin's former business partners. They'd had a falling out 5 years ago, and Harold had been burned badly in the split. "I heard your startup is disrupting the customer service AI sector," his email read. "I'd like to discuss potential collaboration. Also, I may have information you'd find valuable regarding Martin's current business practices." We met for coffee at a neutral location. Harold was direct. "Martin screwed me out of $200,000, he said. Made it look legal, but it was theft. I couldn't prove it then. But I've been watching his patterns since." He slid a folder across the table. Financial documents, email chains, evidence of Martin cutting corners, misleading clients, manipulating contracts. "Why give this to me?" he asked. "Because he did to you what he did to me. Dismissed you as irrelevant while taking everything he could. And because, unlike me, you have the power to do something about it. I didn't commit to anything. Just listened, absorbed the information, and added it to my growing file. Knowledge was power. And I was becoming very powerful. The tech industry networking event was unavoidable. My company was presenting our latest AI customer service platform, and every major player in the sector would be there, including Martin's firm. I saw him immediately when I walked in. He was holding court near the bar, Callie at his side like an accessory. He hadn't seen me yet. My presentation was scheduled for the main stage. Lucia squeezed my hand before I walked out. "Show them who you really are." The room was packed. I took the stage, and the noise gradually quieted. 3 years ago, I started TechFlow Solutions in my spare bedroom. I began. People called it a hobby, something cute to keep me busy. Today, we're valued at $40 million and serving enterprise clients across 3 continents. I went through our technology, the AI innovations we'd developed, the partnerships we'd secured. The room was electric with interest. Questions came rapid fire. Investors approached afterward with cards and offers. And through it all, I watched Martin's face. The moment of recognition. The shock. The dawning realization of what he'd missed. For the first time he saw me. Really saw me. And I pretended not to notice him at all. Martin's company lost a major client 2 weeks after the networking event. A telecommunications firm they'd counted on for 30% of their annual revenue. According to my sources, Martin blamed Callie. Accused her of fumbling the relationship. She'd cried in the bathroom for an hour. What neither of them knew was that the contract hadn't been fumbled. It had been quietly redirected to TechFlow Solutions through a partner company. I'd never broken a rule, never violated an agreement. I'd simply offered better service at a better price through a third party. Martin never saw me coming because he'd never bothered to look. Lucia brought me the news with champagne. The telecom deal closed. They signed for 3 years. "Perfect," I replied, sipping the champagne. "What's next on the list?" She pulled up our acquisition targets. 3 more vendors that Martin's company relied on. All available for purchase. All strategically critical. "When do you want to move?" "Give it 2 months," I said. "Let them think the telecom loss was bad luck. Then we start the next phase." My best friend Hannah called with unexpected news. She'd been digging through public records, something she did for fun as a paralegal. Evelyn, Martin lied during your divorce about his financial standing. He underreported assets by at least $300,000. You could sue. Thought about it. A lawsuit would be public, messy, and time-consuming. It would put me back in Martin's orbit, exactly where I didn't want to be. No lawsuit, I decided. But send me everything you found. Instead, I had the information quietly leaked to Martin's investors through an anonymous tip. Just facts. Just documentation. Nothing that could be traced back to me. The seed of doubt was planted. Martin had a pattern of financial dishonesty. His investors would start asking harder questions, demanding more transparency. Trust, once broken, was nearly impossible to rebuild. And I just shattered theirs. Callie started showing cracks 3 months after the divorce. I heard about it through the office gossip network that every industry has. She'd expected a certain lifestyle. The trips, the gifts, the image of success. But Martin's company was struggling now, and the money wasn't flowing as freely. Then she found messages on his phone. Martin was already flirting with someone new. Client. Younger than Callie, which must have stung. She confronted him at the office. Their fight was loud enough that security was called. She accused him of using her, of never actually loving her, of treating her exactly as he'd treated me. You're just a parasite with a credit card, she'd screamed before storming out. I heard the story from 3 different sources, each adding more details. Martin's humiliation. The way everyone had watched. How he'd tried to play it off but looked rattled for days. Felt nothing. Not satisfaction. Not sympathy. Just the cool observation of patterns repeating. He hadn't changed. He'd just found a new victim. And now she was waking up. I spent an evening going through old photos, something I'd avoided since the divorce. Me and Martin in the early days, when I'd thought we were partners. When I'd believed his support was real. I found the moment that changed everything. Photo from 2 years ago. I'd just landed our first major client for TechFlow. I'd run home excited, ready to celebrate. Martin had barely looked up from his phone. That's nice, honey. Your little project is doing well. It's not a project, I'd said. It's a company. A real company. Sure. But don't get too focused on it. I need you to be present in our life too. Present. As if building something from nothing wasn't real work. As if my ambitions were hobbies to be indulged until they became inconvenient. Finally understood. He hadn't left me because I wasn't enough. He'd left because he couldn't control my success. Couldn't take credit for it. Couldn't make it about him. I deleted the photos. Not out of anger but out of closure. That version of me was gone. What remained was stronger. Beverly's social circle gathered for the annual charity gala. The event she'd been planning for months, expecting to be the center of attention as the primary sponsor. Instead, I was the keynote speaker. The charity had approached me after the sponsorship reshuffle. They were thrilled to have a successful female tech entrepreneur speaking about empowerment and resilience. They had no idea about my connection to Beverly. I saw her face when I took the stage. The shock. The fury. The humiliation of being upstaged in her own event. My speech was about overcoming adversity. About people who underestimate you becoming your greatest motivation. About building something real when everyone calls it a hobby. The applause was thunderous. Afterward, Beverly tried to approach me for a photo. The kind she could post on social media, showing we were still connected. Politely declined. I'm sorry, I have another engagement. The moment rippled through her social circle. By the next day, everyone knew. Beverly had been dismissed by the woman she'd looked down on. The power dynamic had completely shifted. I didn't need revenge. I just needed them to understand that I'd risen beyond their reach. TechFlow Solutions quietly acquired another critical software company. This one provided the project management tools Martin's firm used for all their client work. The acquisition happened through a subsidiary. Martin wouldn't see my name on the paperwork. But he'd definitely notice when the terms of service changed. Technical issues started appearing. Features that used to work smoothly began glitching. Response times for support tickets stretched from hours to days. Nothing catastrophic, but enough to cause constant frustration. Martin's team scrambled to diagnose the problems. They reached out to support, filed complaints, threatened to switch vendors. But switching would take months and cost a fortune. They were trapped using software that no longer worked reliably, and they had no idea why. Lucia asked if I felt guilty. "You're sabotaging them." "I'm not sabotaging anything," I corrected. "I'm running a business. The software works fine for clients who pay premium support rates. Martin's company is on the basic plan. They're getting exactly what they pay for. Nothing illegal. Nothing unethical. Just strategic business decisions." Callie left Martin 6 months after my divorce. I heard about it through Hannah, who heard it from someone at Martin's office. The final straw was discovering she'd never been added to the house title. Martin had promised they'd make it official after the divorce was final. But months passed and he kept making excuses. She'd finally confronted him, demanding to know why. He'd been evasive, dismissive. That's when she realized she was exactly where I'd been. Invisible, taken for granted, useful only until she stopped being convenient. Their breakup was explosive. She threatened to sue for promises made. He threatened to ruin her reputation in the industry. They'd both said terrible things, burned bridges, shown their worst selves. She moved out the same night, taking only what she'd come with. Martin called me 3 days later. The first time we'd spoken since signing the divorce papers. "Can we talk?" His voice sounded tired. I stared at my phone, watching his name flash on the screen. Then I sent the call to voicemail and blocked his number. Some bridges weren't worth rebuilding. Some people didn't deserve second chances. Martin tried to sue me 2 weeks later. His lawyer sent papers claiming I'd breached fiduciary duties during our marriage by hiding assets. He wanted half of TechFlow Solutions. I almost laughed when I read it. My lawyer responded within 24 hours with documentation showing that TechFlow had been founded before our marriage and legally protected through an LLC structure. Every asset, every investment, every decision had been properly documented and separate from marital property. The judge threw out the case before it even reached trial. The plaintiff has no standing. All assets were properly segregated. Case dismissed. Martin had to pay my legal fees. $20,000 for a lawsuit that never had a chance. I walked out of the courthouse that day and didn't look back. Didn't gloat. Didn't celebrate. Just moved forward. Because that's what winners did. They didn't waste time on people who'd already lost. The real collapse came slowly, then all at once. Martin arrived at his office one Monday to find resignation letters from 3 of his senior developers. Then 2 more the following week. The rumor spread quickly through industry channels. A new competitor was launching a direct product against Martin's company. Better technology. Better funding. Better leadership. The competitor was TechFlow Solutions. We'd been developing the product quietly for months. A customer relationship management system specifically designed for mid-sized companies. Exactly Martin's target market. Our technology was better because we'd learned from his mistakes. Our pricing was competitive because we had the funding to sustain initial losses. Our reputation was growing because people respected success built from nothing. Martin's company couldn't compete. Within 3 months, they'd lost 40% of their client base. Staff morale was at an all-time low. Investors were demanding answers he couldn't provide. I didn't orchestrate every failure. I just gave the market a better option and let people choose. They chose me. The email arrived on a Tuesday afternoon. Subject line: "Can we talk?" I stared at it for a long moment, my finger hovering over the delete button. But curiosity won. "Evelyn, I know I don't deserve your time. But I need to explain some things. I made mistakes. Big mistakes. Can we please meet? Just once. For closure." Martin. I didn't respond. Not immediately. Let him sit with the silence. Let him wonder if I'd even read it. 2 days later, I replied with a single sentence. There's nothing to discuss. His response came within minutes. Please. I'm begging you. I closed my laptop and smiled. Not cruelly. Just with the satisfaction of someone who'd finally moved beyond caring. He could beg all he wanted. My silence was my answer. Some conversations weren't worth having. Some people had already said everything that mattered through their actions. The podcast interview was scheduled for a Tuesday morning. Women in Tech was a popular show, and they'd been trying to book me for months. Finally agreed. The host was warm and insightful. We talked about my journey, the challenges of starting a company, the moment everything changed. What drives you? She asked. What keeps you going when things get hard? I thought about Martin serving me divorce papers in a hospital bed. About Beverly's patronizing smile. About everyone who dismissed my work as a cute hobby. Sometimes the people who underestimate you the most give you the fire to become unstoppable, I said, looking directly at the camera. They show you exactly what you're capable of by telling you what you'll never achieve. The episode went viral. Thousands of shares. Comments from women who'd been dismissed and overlooked. Messages from people saying I'd inspired them to keep going. Martin definitely saw it. I knew because his mother called, leaving a voicemail I never listened to. Martin showed up at my office unannounced. Security called before letting him up, asking if I wanted them to turn him away. Let him come, I said. He walked into my office looking nothing like the confident man who'd divorced me. His suit was wrinkled. His eyes were tired. He'd aged 5 years in the past 9 months. Please, he said, standing in my doorway. Can we just talk? I gestured to the chair across from my desk. Let him feel like a supplicant asking for an audience. My company is failing, he admitted. My mother won't speak to me. Callie is threatening to write a tell-all about our relationship. I've lost everything. And you came here for what? Sympathy. Help. I came to apologize. Really apologize. For everything. His voice cracked. You didn't deserve how I treated you. You never did. I studied him for a long moment. The man I'd loved. The man who'd destroyed me when I was at my lowest. You divorced a woman in a hospital bed, I said quietly. You don't get to ask for grace in mine. He tried to speak, but I held up my hand. You're dismissed, Martin. Leave my office. TechFlow Solutions went public 18 months after my divorce. The IPO was oversubscribed. Our valuation soared. Overnight, I became one of the youngest self-made female tech executives in the country. Cameras flashed at the stock exchange. Reporters asked questions. Investors celebrated. Lucia rode with me in the car afterward, asking if I wanted champagne to celebrate. No, I said, looking out at the city passing by. I want silence. I've waited long enough for peace. The money was nice. The success was validating. But what I'd really gained was something more valuable than any dollar amount. I'd proven to myself that I was exactly who I'd always believed I could be. The people who'd doubted me, dismissed me, discarded me, they'd been wrong. Not because I'd made them pay, but because I'd made them irrelevant. That evening I sat alone in my apartment, my laptop closed, my phone off. Just silence and the satisfaction of knowing I'd built something that couldn't be taken away. Because it wasn't luck or inheritance or anyone's charity. It was mine. Earned. Built. Unshakable. I returned to the rehabilitation hospital a year after going public. Not as a patient but as a donor. The new recovery wing would bear my name. 20 beds for people rebuilding their lives after traumatic accidents. The best equipment. The best staff. Everything I'd needed and more. The hospital director gave me a tour of the construction site. We passed the cafeteria where Martin and Callie had sat while a nurse accidentally revealed their affair. A nurse from my stay recognized me as we walked past. She approached hesitantly. You're that woman, right? The one whose husband left while you were here. Smiled. Not the broken smile of someone still healing from betrayal, but the confident smile of someone who'd transcended it entirely. "No," I said clearly. "I'm the woman everyone forgot existed, until I reminded them who I was." She looked confused for a moment, then understanding dawned. She'd seen me at my lowest point. Now she was seeing me at my highest. "I'm really glad you're okay," she said softly. "I'm better than okay," I replied. "I'm free." I left the hospital that day feeling complete. The past was behind me, laid to rest not through revenge but through growth. Martin was irrelevant now. Beverly was forgotten. Even the pain of that hospital room had transformed into fuel for something greater. I'd survived a car crash. I'd survived a divorce during recovery. I'd survived being dismissed and underestimated. And I'd emerged not as a victim, but as exactly who I'd always been capable of becoming. Unstoppable.